Thousands of Israelis demonstrated in Jerusalem against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government and against the exemptions granted to ultra-Orthodox Jewish men from military service. The demonstrations organized outside Parliament calling for fresh elections to replace the current government. According to the Israeli media, the latest demonstrations appear to be the largest since the war began between Israeli armed forces and the Hamas militants. Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet has been facing widespread criticism over the security failure of the Hamas attack that took place on October 7th in southern Israel, killing 1,200 people. Amid the ongoing anti-government demonstration, demonstrators briefly blocked a highway, built bonfires and lit up red flares, calling for Prime Minister Netanyahu's government to resign. The police personnel fired water cannon to break road blockages and disperse the demonstrators. The demonstrators were also dragged off the ground and taken away. So far, 600 soldiers have been killed in the war against Hamas. Three people were stabbed in a suspected knife attack on Sunday night in central Israel's WION town. According to the Israeli emergency services, the three victims sustained serious injuries and were taken to hospital. The Israeli police said that the attacker was neutralized by the police personnel. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas swore in a new government on Sunday, headed by Mohammed Mustafa, an ally to President Mahmoud Abbas and a leading business figure. Mustafa formed a new cabinet on March 28th, in which he will also serve as the foreign minister. He was appointed premier this month to help reform the Palestinian Authority. Abbas's new cabinet, which includes 8 ministers from Gaza, will also include a state minister for relief affairs. Hamas, the militant group that controlled Gaza until Israel's armed offensive in the aftermath of the October 7th attack on Israel's soil, has criticized the appointment of Mustafa. The Israeli military shared a video of an airstrike claiming it killed a Hezbollah commander through airstrike on a vehicle in southern Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Forces identified the commander as Ismail al-Zin, a commander in the anti-tank missile unit of Hezbollah's WION forces. The Israeli army released video showing several airstrikes on buildings with caption reading, and I'm quoting here, "Strike on a significant terror operative of the WION forces anti-tank unit of the Hezbollah terrorist organization." The Israeli military said that al-Zin was a major source of knowledge regarding anti-tank missiles and was responsible for dozens of anti-tank missile attacks against Israeli civilians and security forces. Voting has ended in Turkey's high-stakes local elections, and Turks have given a major electoral blow to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his party, as the nationwide elections has reasserted the opposition as a political force and has reinforced Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu as the president's chief future rival. With most of the votes counted, İmamoğlu led by 10 percentage points in the mayoral competition in Istanbul, the largest city in Turkey. The Republican People's Party (CHP) of İmamoğlu retained Ankara and gained 15 additional mayoral seats across the country. Another setback for Erdogan came when hundreds of supporters in Ankara waved party and Turkish flags during a speech by the re-elected CHP mayor Mansur Yavaş, who easily defeated his AKP opponent. French foreign minister met with his Chinese counterpart in Beijing. The French foreign minister's trip to Beijing is considered as preparation for Chinese president's visit to France in spring this year. Wang Yi and French President Emmanuel Macron met in Paris in February when Macron expressed the desire to cooperate with China and also strengthen a high-level exchange by the end of this year. According to the Chinese embassy, this year marks the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and France. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has strongly countered claims of a setback on the electoral bonds issue during an interview given to Chennai-based TV. Prime Minister Modi rejected the suggestion that the government is on the back foot because of the bonds row. Instead, the Prime Minister said it is due to the policies of his government that sources of funding could be identified. He also questioned if any agency could have found out about the sources of funding before 2014. India's opposition parties have criticized the government after the details of the bonds were made public. Several firms who were facing probe by central agencies turn out to be the major shareholders in buying such bonds. Indian Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari has promised to eliminate petrol, diesel vehicles in India and bats for lower tax for hybrid cars as a part of his ambition to make India a green economy. In an interview to Press Trust of India, Union Minister Gadkari says that he wants to slash GST on hybrid vehicles and rid the country entirely of the over 300 million petrol and diesel vehicles. Gadkari further said, "It is difficult but not impossible, and this is my vision." The environmental activists welcomed Gadkari's vision for increasing green mobility, but also struck caution by flagging the use of fossil fuels in the production of electricity. Seven young people between the age of 12 and 17 were wounded in a shooting outside a shopping mall in United States, Indianapolis. The police department says that the officers were patrolling the area when they heard shots fired near the Circle Center Mall shortly after 11:30 p.m. local time and found a large group of youngsters, including 6 with gunshot wounds. The victims all were transported to the police, says the 7th juvenile with a gunshot who arrived separately at a hospital and was in a stable condition. The investigators of the case believe that there was more than one gun used in the shooting. So far, no arrests have been made as the police have not found any suspects yet. Two people died when a single-engine airplane crashed amid snow in a mountain town in Northern California. United States Federal Aviation Administration, also known as FAA, says that the Socata TBM-9 with 2 people on board crashed around 6:40 p.m. local time on March 30th while on approach to Truckee-Tahoe Airport. The Truckee Police Department confirmed that 2 people died but did not provide further information about the victims. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board will probe the cause of the plane crash. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif conveys to US President Joe Biden Islamabad's willingness to work with Washington, D.C. for global peace and regional prosperity. Sharif's message to Biden comes after the US President wrote to the new Pakistani Prime Minister, assuring that Washington would continue to stand with Islamabad to tackle the most pressing global and regional challenges. Pakistan attaches high importance to its ties with the US. Now, the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Sunday assured US President Joe Biden and emphasized that Islamabad wants to work with Washington to achieve the common goal of global peace and prosperity in the region. Former Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou departs for Beijing for 11-day trip to China, where he is expected to have his second meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And all this comes amid simmering tensions across the Taiwan Strait. Ma, who was the president from 2008 to 2016 last year, became the first former Taiwanese leader to visit China. But China considers Taiwan as its own territory and has ramped up military and political pressure to assert its claims. Ma met Xi Jinping in Singapore in 2015 for a landmark summit shortly before the current Taiwan president Tsai Ing-wen won the election. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol doubled down on the government's plan to increase the medical school admission quota by 2,000. President Yoon began by apologizing to South Koreans for inconvenience caused to them in the current clash between the government and the doctors, and went on to criticize doctors' collective strike action by calling it a grave threat to society. Yoon said that the country does not have a margin for repeated failure to carry out medical reform. 12,000 interns and medical residents have faced impending suspensions of their licenses over their refusal to end the strikes, which have resulted in cancellations of hundreds of surgeries and other treatments at the hospital. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered to mark International Transgender Day of Visibility with a rally in Mexico City, demanding a law for the protection of rights of the transgender community. Members of the LGBTQ community marched down the city's iconic Reforma Avenue from the Senate building to shed light on the discrimination. The murder of at least 4 members of the transgender community in Mexico in January had sparked a nationwide outcry urging the government to provide better protection to transgender community. The Mexican Institute of Statistics data says that the transgender and transsexual population represent 0.9% of the population aged 15 or above. Well, India is saving its citizens from being tricked into cyber fraud in Cambodia. The Indian government says that it is rescuing Indians who were enticed into employment in Cambodia. These Indian nationals were being forced to participate in cyber fraud schemes. The Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal confirmed the rescue and repatriation of 250 Indians as of now. Responding to reports of over 5,000 Indians trapped in Cambodia for cyber fraud, the Indian government is cracking down on the culprits in collaboration with Cambodian authorities and Indian agencies. Additionally, the government and the Indian Embassy in Cambodia have issued advisories to raise awareness about such scams. US telecommunications company AT&T has revealed a major security breach affecting millions of its customers. As per reports, AT&T discovered personal data stolen and traded on the dark web that could expose sensitive information of millions of its users. According to the telecom company, social security numbers for 7.6 million current account holders and 65.4 million old customers were compromised. In a move to control the damage, AT&T has reset passcodes for its current users and has begun informing the affected account holders about the breach. According to reports, Japan and the European Union have agreed to begin discussions on collaborating for advanced materials in next-generation chips and batteries. EU Commissioner for Innovation and Research stated in an interview that establishing this dialogue would be mutually beneficial. The framework, set to kick off as early as April, it aims to address the European Union's need to lessen their dependence on China for materials like rare metals that are crucial for electric vehicle batteries. A new AI tool from Oxford University is stepping up in to help doctors avoid mistakes while prescribing drugs, called Drug GPT. The AI tool helps the doctors by providing a second opinion when prescribing medicines. Doctors input patient conditions into the chatbot, which then suggests drugs and also flags possible adverse effects. Drug GPT's makers highlight that the tool not only offers recommendations but also explains the reasoning behind them with research. While some doctors already use AI chatbots for medical purposes, concerns about its accuracy have lingered. Despite its benefits, experts emphasize the importance of a doctor's involvement in decision-making and to treat the AI tool as a safety rather than a replacement. Xiaomi is advising would-be buyers of its new Su 7 electric sedan that they could face an up to 7-month wait. Now, that's a sign that the Chinese electronics maker is enjoying strong demand for its vehicle. Xiaomi began allowing consumers to place orders for its Su 7 electric vehicle sedan after it announced the prices of the car, which started at $29,000. On Friday night, it said pre-orders hit 88,000 in the first 24 hours. Xiaomi built a Beijing factory capable of manufacturing 200,000 cars annually before it had regulatory approval to start manufacturing in China. China has criticized the tightening of US rules of semiconductor exports, saying that they have created more hurdles to trade and more uncertainty in the chip industry. Well, the White House last week revised rules aimed at making it harder for China to access US AI chips and chip-making tools. Remember, that's a part of a large effort to hobble Beijing's chip-making industry over national security concerns. Factory activity in many Asia economies weakened in March despite a rebound in China as lackluster domestic demand dragged on growth. That's clouding the outlook for a once fast expanding and key driver of the global economy. Export powerhouses Japan and South Korea saw manufacturing activities shrink. Taiwan, Malaysia and Vietnam also witnessed a slump, which is a sign of the fragile state of the region's economies.